I woke up early today and it's just a beautiful morning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive over to a place called Hill Canyon. We're going to go for a little hike and talk. Yesterday I was thinking about a lot of the patients that I see and how much trouble people have regarding their blood pressure, but then started to realize that, the blood pressure is really more of an engine light than anything else in regard to our bodies. It's just interesting that you can have emotional problems, nutritional problems, all these biochemical issues occur in our body, and yet it's reflected most in our blood pressure. And people get so fixated on the blood pressure numbers that we forget that that isn't really the disease. There's a disease in our body. You can call it metabolic syndrome. But there's something deeper going on with a lot of people that I think is of more concern. But because I'm a doctor of chiropractic, one of the advantages I have is I get to know the patients on a very personal level. There's something weird about touching people that a lot of doctors don't do. And patients feel comfortable with you. And they'll tell you things that you don't want to know. Like their entire personal life. And it's an honor. And I get to find out that, ultimately when patients come in for back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, foot pain, knee pain, I saw it all yesterday. Today's Saturday, by the way. And you start to realize there's a lot of people that, their back pain isn't the worst thing. It's their emotional health. And by the way, this is not going to lead into some advertisement regarding, online therapy, like every YouTube channel seems to do. There's just a lot of people that they have family issues. Kids are just crazy. Parents are crazy. Relationships are dysfunctional. And their lives can be so much better if we didn't have these emotional problems. And yet, somehow we go on. Well, our emotions and our stress really can affect us in negative ways. And one of those is our blood pressure. It's interesting, I think, that deep breathing exercises can literally, instantaneously sometimes, lower our systolic number by 30 points sometimes, And what that tells me is that your true blood pressure is unknown. It's hard to know what the blood pressure number is if we can radically change it by reducing stress. One could argue that if you're always stressed, then the highest number is our value. The problem with that theory is then there's pretty much 95% of people should be on medication. 3 or 4 medications per day. And that seems very unreasonable. And yet there are people that live a long life despite stress. It's weird. Because one of the interesting things too is we can radically change blood pressure by altering the diet. And if you want to know in simple terms what it is, just Google foods that contain magnesium and foods that contain potassium. Those two things would have the biggest effect on a lot of people's overall health. First of all, magnesium, most people are just not getting in their diet at all. We don't eat enough magnesium-rich foods because most of the magnesium that we need comes from fruits and vegetables. You know, avocados, bananas, cantaloupe, apricots. I mean, there's a lot of different foods that we could just include in our diet, but people are so effing afraid of eating them because we've been sold on this idea that vegetables are bad for us and fruit is bad for us. It's gotten insane. So a lot of people are just magnesium deficient. And then, unfortunately, depending on where you get your food from, the food just isn't as nutrient dense. So you'd have to eat more of it. And most people, myself included, sometimes you just don't eat enough food. And so there's that. Potassium, which is pretty much found in the same foods that have magnesium, is the same way. And while magnesium has a great effect on our sleep and our heart health, potassium largely has an effect on our blood pressure via the kidney and the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. If you don't know, our kidneys produce a hormone called renin that then activates the liver. Liver makes another one called angiotensinogen, and this becomes angiotensin 1, and then angiotensin converting enzyme converts it into angiotensin 2. And this is where a lot of people are taking ACE inhibitors. That's what the ACE stands for, angiotensin converting enzyme. So you're taking drugs that block an enzyme so that you can reduce the amount of angiotensin 2 in your body. And angiotensin 2 does two things. Hey, that's convenient. It says 2, right? The first is it constricts blood vessels, and the second is it causes another gland in our body called the adrenal gland to produce aldosterone. And aldosterone is largely responsible for causing our kidneys to retain water and sodium. This is where the idea of trying to reduce sodium in our body or our diet kind of comes from, because sodium and water, when it's retained by the kidney, will raise our blood pressure. So you start eating more potassium-rich foods, you start eating more magnesium-rich foods, and what do you know? Your sleep is better, your body functions better, blood pressure goes down, but really, what are we doing? We're taking that warning light that is our blood pressure and turning it off, essentially, with the diet. But does it improve our health? The answer is it does on paper, but I find that people's emotions still run amok. And they're not happy. You can lower their blood pressure, but they're not happy. How does one get happy? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. But I find that more and more when I adjust people, work on their muscles, get them feeling better, there's some connection there that makes this whole process worthwhile. By the way, I'm going to take a little break. Look up there and look right there. It really is gorgeous. I love walking this early in the morning. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but man, the birds are chirping. It's nice, crisp in the air. And there's just no one around. Usually this place gets busy later on. Anywho, what are your thoughts? If you could have a little bit higher blood pressure, but yet be mentally happy, would you want to? Is having a normal blood pressure the ultimate thing in getting healthy? Is that the only metric that we have? I don't know. But I'm starting to suspect that the most important thing in dealing with people is how can we get them happy? And if you could do that, all else will fall into place. Are you a sunset person or a sunrise person? Of course, I like both. But here comes the sun. Nice bench here. That's wet. Well, it's supposed to rain in supposedly 15 minutes. But I don't think it's going to rain. I think it's pretty sunny. I mean, I see clouds, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm out here this morning. I haven't eaten in 12 hours. Now, some people would call that fasting. I just call it, I just haven't eaten yet. That's the thing, is that we make a science out of everything. It really doesn't have to be. We stress over the most mundane things. This doesn't stress me out, coming out here and walking in the hills. I love this.